Hello and welcome back to the Stacey West YouTube channel and back for another preview, this time looking ahead to the away trip down to London on Saturday as the Imps face Charlton Athletic. Now, to talk all things Charlton, I am joined by Louis from Charlton Live. How are we doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Charlie. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. We have just had a conversation over on the Charlton Live, so everybody make sure to check some of that out. So we're going to talk about Charlton, of course, and it's been a bit of a mixed season from the outside looking in, with the start of the season being a bit different to the position you're in now. So talk me through, first of all, those expectations from the start of the year, and then how you were kind of feeling 3 months in.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a crazy one, but obviously everyone's very happy now. But yeah, start of the season, expectation wise, you know, similar to what you said on our one. No one was sitting there talking about we're going to go top two, because everyone's looking at League One and thinking, right, there's going to be two very well moneyed sides who are going to run away with it from the rest of the teams, and only one of them has done that, as we find out. And then, but you know, I think most people are like, right, I think there's enough there to have a tilt at a playoff push. Which would be an improvement on where we've been over the last few years, and particularly last year, where before Nathan came in, we were battling relegation really at one point. It still ended up having our lowest finish in 98 years, so quite a low base to start upon. But we won our first 3 games, didn't concede a goal. You could see there was a real structure to the side without playing perhaps the prettiest football. So everyone got quite excited. You know, we thought maybe there's a chance here. But then after the sort of 4th, 5th, 6th game, we suddenly seemed to find ourselves in a bit of a rut, to put it nicely, to the extent that when we were beaten at home by Crawley in early December, there was I'd say a reasonable groundswell of fans who were up for a change of manager. You know, he was certainly under a lot of pressure at that point. And certainly at that point, everyone was like, right, another season we're going to have to write off and just hope there's an improvement between now and the end of the year. But since then, since that game in early December, we've gone on to win 15 of our next 21 games. I think it is 22. But it's an incredible run. It's a title winning charge. You know, if it started a few weeks earlier, we'd be absolute certs for top 2. And the way that Nathan's turned it around has just been remarkable. To the extent that, you know, I think playoffs are probably clinched now. I think we're pretty well set for playoffs, and there is still an outside chance that we might make a late surge towards the top 2 as well.
Well, yeah, look, and you say outside chance, but you know, you've still got Wickham and Wrexham to play, albeit both of those away from home. But I guess you've almost got it in your hands if you are able to take it.
Possibly. I mean, we're 6 points off Wrexham, so I think realistically we have to win all of our remaining games. Yeah, and then obviously because we've got to play Wrexham and Wickham, people think, well, that's 6 points, but you know, it would only, if you beat Wrexham, you only take 3 points off Wrexham, and you've got to overtake them both. So, you know, obviously we've all sat there and done the maths. What could happen if we go to? I'm concentrating on Wrexham, and that might be the wrong thing to do, because obviously Wickham are ahead of us and they've got a game in hand. But Wrexham are the side sitting second currently. I'm concentrating on them. If we do beat them, which is the penultimate game of the season, so we'll know a lot more by then anyway. I think they'd have to drop points in 2 of their remaining 6 games, other than that one with us. So, you know, they're eyeing up. They've got to play Burton at home Saturday. Well, you know, Burton are down the bottom, but they've just beaten Orient. You know, they've had a bit of a resurgence under Gary Bowyer. They've got to go away to Blackpool, who are threatening to have a little bit of a run. You know, and I think they've got some games in there that they could stumble out on. You know, Wigan away, maybe. You know, maybe you guys at home on the last day could do us a favour, or away. Yeah, it's at Sinsel Bank, isn't it, on the last day of the season? So there's fixtures there where you're thinking they could slip up, but I think we have to win all of our games. I think if we won 5 and drew 1, that might not be enough. So I think we have to win all of our games, but as I said on our show, if there's any side in the top 6 at the moment who could win all of their games, I think it has to be us, because we are the form team over the last 3-4 months. You know, we are on an incredible run, and when we have lost games, we've bounced back immediately. It's tough, but it's doable. which is an incredible position to find ourselves in, considering where we were in December.
Well, and this is it. I think, when you say there, if there's any team that are going to be able to bridge a gap like that, it will be you guys at the moment. And I think that's kind of the way that we're looking at it going into the game on Saturday. You are one of, if not the hardest team to play in the division right now. And obviously we're going there to try and spoil the party, which, with all due respect, kind of hope we can do, even though it doesn't mean too much for us. But it's always fun to do that on a Saturday afternoon, no matter the team you play. Now, look, obviously you've spoken about that real change in fortune, especially from that position in December, which was obviously when you played us in what was a really, really poor game of football back in December. It was a lunchtime kickoff, if I remember rightly. The conditions were awful, 0-0 draw. It just wasn't a good game of football at all. Now, it'll be interesting to see how good of a game Saturday can be, and obviously how much we try and stump you in certain areas. But what's the kind of level of quality of football? And it's always a bit of an arduous kind of comment, isn't it? Playing football, because every game's a football match, but you know what I mean. Playing that kind of proper quality, entertaining game. Is that the kind of style that you guys have been bringing, or is it actually been a lot more of a measured approach in matches and you've been able to grind out results rather than having these performances that maybe do blow your socks off?
We can do a bit of everything at the moment. And again, even that has been an evolving style throughout the year because, funnily enough, you go back to that game at your place in December. So that was literally the next game we played after that Crawley debacle where, it was being leveled at the manager that we play a long ball style and we're not good enough, because we haven't got the ability to mix it up. And obviously we came up to your place and there was that horrible storm going on. Yeah. Which I remember very well because we were booked in to go to the Christmas lights at Lincoln Castle in the evening, and it turned out it had been closed all day. And we turned up at the top of Steep Hill, and we almost got blown away to find out it wasn't there because it'd been closed. But funny enough, because of the wind, we were like, well, we got the ball down and played a little bit today, and we thought it must have been because if you kicked it in the air, it was going to go and land on the cathedral. So that was the first day that we actually played the ball around a bit, and that has grown as evolved as a style. We do play it a bit more, but we're not afraid to mix it up if we need to, if we have to go long, if we have to grind games out, if we have to do anything like that. We've found a really good balance now. So Tuesday's win at Mansfield was ugly. It was a scrappy game. Mansfield made it difficult. Not a bad side, actually, on their day. They've been on a horrible run, but they've got the players to mix it up a bit. And we went there and we did it, and then we had that little bit of quality. But then if you look at our last home game last weekend against Huddersfield, I mean, we blew them away, without the need of a storm. Like, we absolutely battered them, and we played some lovely, lovely football. Like, we put together some really nice stuff at times. So we can do both. We've got quality individuals who can turn up and conjure something out of nothing, but we've got battlers as well in that midfield. Coventry, Doherty in that midfield can give as good as they're going to get. Our defence, hard as nails. One of the best defensive records we've had for a long, long time. We can mix it up if we need to, and we will not be afraid to do that if we have to. But like I say, Exeter have come to the Valley over the last few weeks. Huddersfield have come to the Valley over the last few weeks. Stevenage, we've just outplayed them and beaten them comfortably. So we can do both. Don't worry about that.
Well, that's great to hear. Thanks. But no, it's going to be an interesting way to see how the game is set up on Saturday. Now, just before we go on to discussing predictions for how Saturday might go, which is the way that we always end our previews, just to give you a little teaser to give yourself a chance to think up of a scoreline now. What we also obviously like to do is just mention some of the players that we maybe need to fear from your side. Now, obviously, there's plenty of them, but also we like to just pick up on one or two of the former Lincoln players. Now, first of all, you just mentioned there Connor Coventry, although he only played a few league matches for us. I think he racked up maybe 7 league matches in the end because he joined us on loan in January of the season that got curtailed due to COVID. Obviously, he seems to be a really integral part to the centre of your midfield and probably a more integral part to your team this season than what Alex Mitchell, who joined in the summer after spending the year on loan with us, has done. So, bit of a contrast between the fortunes of those two players.
Yeah, I mean, start with Coventry. Like, he's had a really interesting start to his. So we bought him January last year, so midway through last season, and he was competing in that midfield or often playing alongside George Dobson, who is our much-loved captain, quite an explosive defensive midfielder in terms of charging into challenges and stuff. And you know, he was an excellent player for us, and he's doing very well at Wrexham. So, you know, there's always the temptation to compare whether one player was better than the other and all that sort of stuff, which I'm not actually really getting dragged into, because I think they've both proven to be two very good League One players, but they're very different players in the same role. Connor Coventry is much more measured in terms of the way he slides into challenges. Like, he sort of reads the game and doesn't have to dive into the challenges as much, whereas Dobson is that much more aggressive sort of in terms of challenges, explosive tackles and that sort of thing. But they both have their relative merits. But he's been superb as he's grown into the side. Since Dobson's left, we've understood more of what he brings to the team. And I think he's been really good, you know, in that midfield. He's had Ireland call-ups this year. And yeah, he's been an enjoyable watch and a big part of our midfield sort of pressing pack mentality that we have. He's been very important for us. Alex Mitchell, you know, to be fair, like, started really well the season. You know, we as I said, defensively we've been good most of the season, and particularly at the start when we were keeping clean sheets. And I think he did quite well. I think he's been a little bit unlucky in that in Kane Ramsey. So who is also sort of a right-sided centre-half, can play right wing-back as well. We've just found an absolute gem. We signed him from Harrogate. He would have worked... he would have been at Southampton, I think, at the same time as Nathan Jones, so he would have known about him anyway, but he dropped out. When he played his football at Harrogate, we picked him up, and he's been absolutely brilliant. So calm on the ball, and I think that's the one thing he has over Alex. I think defensively they're both pretty decent, but Alex, not the best on the ball, and didn't really suit the style of play if there is ever to be like getting out of defence, which is sometimes you can get with a three at the back. So yeah, he's done okay, he's done fine, but he's just been unlucky that we've had a very competent player playing in the same position, and it's been difficult to get his position off him. But yeah, Alex Mitchell actually did quite well. I think people were quite excited with his performances at the start of the year, and obviously playing part in that was, I think you guys did you have the best defensive or one of the best defensive records in the division last year, and he played a big part in that.
Yeah, obviously, absolutely, and it's the way it happens sometimes, isn't it? With every kind of a move and the makeup of every squad, there's always going to be one or two players who do miss out on long-term minutes just because of the greatness that's in other areas in the squad as well, and that's absolutely justified with that. All right, so I did obviously tease it just before I did ask that previous question, but Louis, I would love a score prediction. How do you see Saturday going?
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys know that we've won our last 8 home games, which is our best record since the 1980s. Undefeated in I think about 12 now at home since that game against Crawley, funnily enough. So no one has come close to us at the Valley over the last few months. Like, we are ridiculous at home, and I just think we'll do what we have to do, and I see us like a comfortable 2-0 win, because that's just the way we are at the moment. That's no slight on Lincoln, but that's just what we're about at the moment, and I fancy us to beat anyone in SE7. So yeah, 2-0 to the Addicts.
Yeah, look, I think that, as I said earlier on, you guys are probably one of the toughest teams to be playing in League One right now. And as much as I don't want, I'm not going to predict a Lincoln loss. I just can't really bring myself to do it when I'm on these. But I definitely think it's going to be a really tough game, which is why I'll go for a 1-1. We'll go for the same as what it was this time last year when we went down to the Valley. I think it was more February time, and we got a 1-1 draw then. And realistically, I think that's probably the best that we can hope for, as much as we do try to stay optimistic. But look, that was the Charlton Athletic preview. Thank you so much for coming on, Louis. As I said everyone earlier on, make sure to go and check out Charlton Live. They do some amazing stuff. There was some really good interviews that I was just listening in on earlier on as well whilst we were doing the preview over there. So definitely make sure to go and check that out. But thank you so much for joining me. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, up the Imps.